Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Risk of Rain 2. My name is Wilfred. So today's video I'd like to share with you some initial gameplay when we unlock the Artificer and my wife unlocked the Mercenary. So it is a team combo, both of us just play these two characters new, but we are loving it. Every moment of it is very engaging. High damage, one is a ranged class that's very high damage, another one is a melee class that's also very high damage. So I'll talk a little bit about how I find the Artificer, as well as the what sort of how to unlock her, what sort of items may be more useful for Artificer. Alright, so now the just a little bit context on this video. Now is already at the very high kind of difficulty setting in a way. So this game has three difficulty setting: high, medium, low. So because my wife and I are kind of new to the Risk of Rain franchise, so we choose a low difficulty to start with. But as time goes by, the difficulty escalate and things become harder to destroy, and they also hurt you a lot more as well. So as you can see the counter at the top right hand corner, there's a clock to it. So the clock shows you how how much time has elapsed since we started the game. So it's more than an hour ago at the time of recording this video. So the difficulty is escalated to probably one of the highest one, although within the low difficulty setting. So just watch this video with that context. On how difficult the thing is for us. Both of us are kind of new to the game. All right. So now back to the Artificer. To unlock this class, which is like a mage class by the way, you need to have 10 Lunacorn, and in order to go to the place whereby you can unlock the Artificer, right, you need to offer 1 Lunacorn to the Shrine of Newt. That's where, after you defeat the boss of that stage, the celestial portal will appear. Go inside there, just walk deep into the end of the dungeon, and you'll find the Artificer being locked up in an ice kind of like cone, and you just need to offer 10 Lunacorn and she's yours to play. Now the farming for Lunacorn, I don't know, I mean it takes a while, but it's not like impossible. So but this game is so fun to play anyway. So what we've done is that after a while, depending on, because we always play with my wife and my friend Mark, and we prioritize a little bit, if one of us is getting a little bit closer to the 10 coin kind of a requirement, then we just focus on giving all the coins to one person, and then after that another person and stuff like that. So but we've got it, I've got it unlocked, and the Artificer is very fun. She's a mage kind of class, so a little bit remind me a little bit of Hellgate London as well, because her left kind of hand will fire the fireball, and the right hand will fire the so-called lightning bolt that would kind of stun and freeze us people, and then you can have the ice block as well. If you manage to if any mobs come to you, it'll be frozen, and then ultimately you will also have something called the I don't know what is it called, but it's like a scorching ray in Path of Exile, whereby she'll beam a really intense kind of a fire beam like this one here, just to beam the fire into the mob itself. So overall it's very fun. There's a little bit of stun, a little bit of fire. And you can't really spam her power. Her power is very high. It's a high DPS class, but you can't really spam it because there's a number of charges to it. So there are 3 charges or 4 charges depending on the mods that you have. And so you have to aim, and on the flying kind of object, it's a little bit hard as well sometimes to aim that. But it's just with a little bit of practice, you will get it. So for this one here, is my first game playing the Artificer. In fact, the first time I went in, she died on the first boss. But then you kind of after 1 hour of playing, you kind of recover from here, kind of learn okay, so this is how you play the Artificer. And so it's very fun. A lot of spamming of the stun kind of a lightning bolt, huge one, and then you got a bit of ice, freeze additional melee mobs as well, a little bit of aiming for the fireball, and ultimately you got the scorching ray kind of things that you could just beam it to the enemy, try to obliterate them, in fact. So high damage class, very fun. The only downside, of course every class has its own downside, otherwise everybody will play the same class, right? So the only downside is that besides you have to aim the you have to aim the mob is that she doesn't have any dodge or teleport or or just dash kind of thing like multi. You can dash. Like the Mercenary, I think you can kind of phase into another place. Like the Huntress, you can also like phase. Like stuff like this is very dangerous for the Artificer, because if you are being targeted by the beam, you have to find a environment whereby you can sort of hide behind them and break the line of sight. So you have to be aware of the environment, what you can make use of, and when things go wrong, you can spring to that kind of like this kind of beam that's going onto you. You need to somehow find a place to hide behind a pillar, or the things that you help you to survive a little bit better. So there's pros and cons. She doesn't dash, her mobility is not quite there, but what it really means is that when you come to itemization, then that go without saying. Things like reduce damage when you're sprinting, increase the sprinting speed, increase the overall travel speed, and also things like block chance. Those are quite important to Artificer. Anything that drop health globe when you kill something, that's good as well. Health per damage there, also pretty good. So you just have to make sure that you have all these things that lined up for you, and of course any ammo clip that may drop from enemy as you kill them, that will reset your cooldown for a lot of things, like more beams, more orbs, more everything basically, because her power is everything is just by cooldown. So with that in mind, they kind of know that, okay, fine, these are the things that you probably can help Artificer. Turning invisible when you take heavy damage, those are pretty good as well. Infusion, that goes without saying, for all classes are important, but for Artificer is more so important because she doesn't really have a lot of health, and she's kind of fragile, but not as fragile as Huntress. So I have a lot of fun playing the Artificer for sure. Some people ask what's the difference between Artificer and also Huntress, because both are range character, both are pretty high DPS as well. I would say that the main difference between the two of them is that for Artificer, you have to aim. You have to aim for the target. Unlike the say Huntress is auto firing, auto aim. So Huntress can auto aim. The things just spawn on its own, and it's a lot easier. But the Huntress has a closer target. It's more like it's not melee, but it's a medium target. While for Artificer, it's very much like you can have a pretty long range for some of this power, except the ray itself. So there's a lot of a difference between the two, sufficient enough to have them as different classes. The Huntress has a lot of mobility that it can dash as well, while the Artificer doesn't have. So it can't balance out, because Huntress need to be at the medium range. A lot of people complain that the Huntress is too fragile and so on. Maybe so, but I think from a design perspective, the developer want to distinguish between these two range DPS class, because otherwise it seems like you play the same kind of game. So if you like a little bit of mobility, yeah, go for Huntress. But if you like a little bit of aiming and satisfaction of being able to aim for a target or freeze a target, like this one is done by the way, then definitely the Artificer is going to be one of the favorite. I play both Huntress and Artificer. I think both of them are fun in their own way. So basically I love this game. So far for all the classes, I think I like the Engineer, although the Engineer doesn't really do a lot of damage. It's more like a support class. I like the Huntress because of mobility, and I definitely like the Artificer because of the amount of the amount of DPS that you have from the class itself. I still try to get used to the multi, because I found the multi a little bit slow, although multi is very tanky, and very high range as well. You can switch between two kind of a mechanic, whether it's AoE firing or the single target long range kind of firing. Something that I probably need to learn a little bit more on that multi thingy. And I think the developer also acknowledged that is rather kind of it needs some kind of improvement on that. Now, by the way, this is going to be the last boss encounter. It's one of the hardest already. Hitting the 90-minute part is very hard. I think in retrospect, I should have killed off some of the elite rather than focusing on the boss. But the boss does a lot of AoE. It does a lot of like explosion. So this is one of the harder boss to deal with, and plus you have the Titan that beam you, like this one here. Plus you have the Beetle Queen that does a lot of poison damage. So it's actually just insane. Some of these like things that you can see all the drones are just taking a lot of damage as well. So it is a very, very hard kind of like encounter. Anything passing the 90-minute mark, maybe for my wife and I, those are really kind of difficult. But we have fun, definitely, and this is the part whereby my character just like being blown out of the wilderness. And I mean, that was a mod that I can resurrect one time, I think, but that didn't last long either. The beam are just too high to do. So after that, I'm seeing my wife playing the Mercenary, and by the way, this is the melee part of it. I've played, man, this is so very confusing. The Mercenary is something that I need to so-called learn a little bit on how to play it. Does a lot of launch. I think it's one of the best designed melee hero character for a game like a third point shoot. I mean, can you imagine melee on a third point shoot? It's just pretty insane. But when you play it, actually it makes sense as well. You don't really see anything here, but if you play it, you kind of get it. You kind of dash from target to target, kind of like kind of things. So you launch yourself onto a target and play it. So it's also very fun, but once I master it a little bit, I'll show you what it does. But right now I don't really have any sensing on what I can do with it. I think all the drones are there, and then my wife character dies as well. So yep, that's the end of the whole encounter. And looking at it, we have cleared about 10 stages, 3 deaths for me because of, well, I mean, I have the mod to resurrect. Then 1 death for my wife character. I think I've purchased quite a lot of items as well. I think both of our kills are quite similar. I mean, it just means that both of us are DPS class. Compared to engineer, usually it's a lot lower in terms of the kill count. But yeah, I mean, all in all, very, very fun. We both have different set of like different set of like the items as well, item collected and so on. Alright, so thank you so very much for watching, and I hope you enjoy this sort of like Risk of Rain kind of video, and do let me know in the comments box below what sort of content you like to see. Alright, see you next time. Goodbye.